Okay, welcome everybody. So this is the graduation ceremony for the professional programs, first professional programs in the Graduate School of Architecture, Planning, Preservation and whatever, which is to say the school that thinks of every single aspect of the built environment as possibly needing our attention, right? So we really, and how do you make a distinction between the built environment and the environment? Well, you can't. So actually it's the sort of school devoted to the planet, if you think about it. So it really is, in a certain sense, a very, very ambitious place that's trying to think about the future of the kind of global situation and trying to do so with kind of real creativity and real experience. You're a little different than the people that we celebrated in the previous situation. In the previous situation, you've got these hotshots that fly into the school at high speed and fly out at high speed, and all you feel is the sort of turbulence that they create within the school. But that turbulence is also something that contributes to your education because you're here for 1, 2, and 3 years or 2 years, like different rhythm. So you get sort of affected by their turbulence, but also you get in their way. In other words, they're going very fast and they basically bang into you because you're coming up and then you hit together. So what happens is two different kinds of species interact and the collision between you is so powerful that afterwards nobody can remember who came in fast and who came in slow, and then you sort of all leave together. But I do think that in the end, even though we no longer can tell the difference between your work and the work of the post-professional programs, it's still a different threshold for you because you were with us for longer, and it's therefore a different threshold for us because we know you much better and we are, believe it or not, sadder about you leaving than anyone else. You come to us from about 65 different countries, and then maybe you hang around New York for a while, and then you return, usually to where you came from. So in theory, we're supposed to be educating you, but in practice, you educate us. And meantime, you educate each other, and we just pretend to be here more or less intelligently watching the future of the planet evolve. So you're on this threshold and you're about to leave, but the point I want to make to you is that the school is absolutely not the same as the school you first arrived in, because even if that building was designed in 1911, and even if it's supposed to tell the world that everything is fixed and stable and everything goes back to cosmological truths and proportions and so on, inside that building it's totally crazy, and there's so much energy inside that building that actually the whole building moves. It's a kind of a ship. You get into the ship and it goes somewhere, and you are the people who have actually made the ship move. It's super exciting that we don't know where it's going. We don't know why. We don't even know what architecture is, right? I keep telling you that we don't know. I think finally now that you're graduating, you realize that none of us know. But it is the question we always ask ourselves, what it is, this built environment that we take care of. And precisely because we don't know what it is, we love it. We really love it because it's full of all this mystery, and all of our expertise is applied to that. So I think the main purpose of the school is to generate new kinds of questions. We hate answers. We get answers very fast, and we use answers as ways to get towards questions. And you have asked questions of us continuously during your time here. I mean, architects and planners and urban designers and preservationists and all of the above and all that will be added to that are experts in thinking differently about a world that all of us take for granted. For most people, the built environment is a steady, more or less reliable situation around which everything else is in flux. For the architect, the planner, the preservationist, and the designer, the built environment itself is what is in flux, is in change. So we're kind of experts in seeing how solid objects actually can move and can move people. So it's an incredibly exciting thing to do, to be your teachers, to be with you, to be thinking together about the future of the built environment. We absolutely have no idea about the best possible future for the built environment. We really don't. We have the best library in the world. We have the best memory of what have been the best ideas of the future. We have a pretty good idea of what is the best current work of today, and you can see it in the end-of-year exhibition. But where that is going is absolutely unclear. So the way this school works is to assume that you, as the graduating students, will be the ones that decide the future of the built environment. It will not be the school, it will not be the scholars, it will not be the great teachers, it will not be the great figures of today. It will be another generation that will emerge around about 10 years from now. About 10 years from now, the meaning of what you have done here starts to become visible, even if 10 years from now you reject everything you have learned here as inadequate. That's the moment in which the education starts to sort of take effect. So what happens in this school, it's so hardcore in its experimental mission that the whole thing depends on a kind of a trust. A really good teacher trusts that the student is ultimately better than the teacher. A terribly weak teacher is one who is sure that he or she is more informed, is more in control than the student. The real teacher is the one that imagines that something is going to happen with that student, something amazing is going to happen 10 years from now, and that thing will happen will make the teacher look stupid. So the primary mission of the faculty at the GSAPP is to create the conditions for you to demonstrate that they are stupid, right? And if you're a really good student, you demonstrate that before leaving the school. Right? Just at the last second. Early on at the school, you're like, oh, great teachers, I could learn something from them. Halfway through the school, I'm not sure they have that much to teach me. Final part of the school, you just leave them behind. You go around the slipstream and fly forward and say, look, you're an old technology. I don't have time. I can't wait for you. Things have to be done in the world. So essentially, this threshold that you're on is a threshold when you've actually already left your teachers behind. You symbolically now leave the school behind. But something will happen about 10 years from now. So in other words, what we do when we are teaching you is we take care of something that has not happened yet. It's kind of like a science fiction story of how do you nurture something, an event that will happen 10 years from now. How do you create and shape something whose meaning it will not be clear for 10 years? In a certain sense, what you do is you work on a kind of instinct that something is happening between you and the student, and not quite knowing what that thing is, that magical thing. It will grow. It will become amazing in the future. In other words, a really good school finds the kind of teacher that can help students to develop new ways of thinking that will only really be applied under very, very new conditions that will require even further changes in thinking. In other words, we have to draw on everything we know about the built environment to put you at the very limit of the knowledge of the field so that you will then jump way beyond that limit and change the very meaning of the field. When we say Graduate School of Architecture, Planning and Preservation, we do not know what that means. We really don't. We're a school devoted to what that might mean 10 years from now, which means we don't train professionals in each of these fields. We train the possibility of an entirely new generation and a new type of professional. In a way, we care not about the shape of buildings or the shape of plans or the shape of a preservation project. We care about the shape of the professional, the shape of the architect, the shape of the urbanist, the shape of the planner, the shape of the preservationist, and the shape of the real estate developer. In other words, where we are really experimental is with a kind of professional intelligence. For that reason, the school is a laboratory, as you know. It's a hardcore, 24 hours, constant, all year round laboratory devoted to experimental ideas about the possible future of designers in society. This class is particularly unique. If this was if we were dealing with wine, we would be saying this is an incredibly good year. And the thing about wine is you don't know if it's good to drink 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. You can have very good grapes but still not know when they're perfect. We know that you are an amazing group. We know that this is a year that will be remembered. Somebody at some point will remember or try to figure out what it is about this group in 2009 that was very, very different from 2008. I have some ideas about that. For example, we're supposed to be in a time of a crisis. And that's a time in which the very, very first thing that happens is that all of you are out of work, instantly. Actually, before there's a crisis, architects and urbanists and preservationists are out of work. That's the first sign, right? And yet, the most optimistic and most intelligent thoughts come from those very people. In other words, the crisis, so-called crisis, is actually the great time for reflection. And if the purpose of a school is to reflect upon the future meaning of the built environment and a future kind of society, actually the crisis is the moment of our greatest responsibility and our greatest intelligence. When the global markets are going up, everybody's busy. There are plans, preservation jobs, architects have commissions, things are being built. Nobody has time for thinking. What you do is you find a niche market and you ride the market to its future. The moment the market crashes, everybody tries for the first time to understand what's happening. Meanwhile, whether the market goes up or the market goes down, this school is thinking. And so when the market drops, suddenly our thoughts become very, very visible and people look to the school for some kind of leadership. And that leadership will come from you, because you basically enter this supposed crisis with an entirely new mental set. I actually think that precisely because this generation of students working in this generation of our school is devoted to testing the limits of the field. In other words, we keep putting pressure on the definition of the field. It's for that reason that I think you will play a crucial leadership role in this moment in time in which the whole question of professional expertise is up in the air. And here's the hypothesis about what makes your generation different. I believe that you might well be the first generation from this school that refuses to accept compromise. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. Of course, everybody says that you're going to have these amazingly beautiful ideas in school, and then when you go out into the world is going to erode them down, and they're going to value engineer everything out of your brilliance. So you have to aim very high, and then the world will erode it down from amazing to still very good. So there's this general perception that the world is going to erode the brilliance of your ideas, but you're so hot and so fast that it really doesn't matter. You'll still do amazing things. But that sense that there will be some kind of compromise is refused by your generation. I think you are the first generation that doesn't assume that if you go, for example, for an ethical position, you can't at the same time be making money as a professional. It's the first time you can be responsible with energy, that you can develop energy-responsible solutions and also work as an artist. In other words, all the traditional choices that designers used to face, you don't accept them. You're kind of Swiss Army knife personalities. You're multitasking, multi-channeling. There's not a single source of information you won't use. There's not a single technology you won't devote. And you just assume that if you put those things in the right combination, you can address any problem according to any system. That represents, in my opinion, a whole new level of intelligence to the field. You are undoubtedly a superior technology. You're as annoying as hell, right? It's very, very irritating to be with people who simply by enjoying their life reveal the fact that you're an old technology, right? The inability of the faculty to fully absorb the complexity and the questions that you are asking is, we are, as it were, put into wheelchairs by your brilliance. It's incredibly annoying, but in this moment, when you go out into the school, we suddenly flip from being annoyed, feeling redundant, feeling out of touch, to feeling unbelievably proud and wanting to claim some kind of credit for this new superior technology. So I'm just trying to tell you in a long-winded way that the school is amazingly proud of this particular year, super, super proud. And there is a kind of a conspiracy theory here. We think you're going to do real damage in the world. We really think that the world is not equipped to handle you. We were not equipped, the world was not equipped. So we have this secret feeling that 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, the landscape of our field will be profoundly changed, and it will be your generation that's at the forefront for that. So it's an amazingly exciting moment. I believe we're witnessing the birth of a new generation of thinking. You might say, oh yeah, but don't they say that sort of thing every year? Isn't every year like the new brilliant future and so on? Yes, to a certain extent. But then there is a moment in which you realize that the most hardcore ambitions of a school are actually being represented by the quality of the students. And the proof for that was when the faculty had to get together and try to figure out which of you to give prizes to. And there was never, ever a battle as strong as the one that was fought over these students. And that for us demonstrates we are dealing with a whole new generation. This is a superior generation. You are infinitely better than the school in which you're about to leave. You have given the school great respect and honor by treating the laboratory space as a serious space to test out some of the most important ideas that you have, Much, much more importantly, lurking somewhere are new ideas that are so new that they could not even be understood as ideas within the context of even this amazingly experimental environment. So I think the laboratory tests that you were doing, there is in this moment of history no longer a very, very solid wall between the inside of the laboratory, which is the school, and the outside, which is the world, which is changing as fast as any laboratory. In this moment of history, the real competition for this school is absolutely not other schools. The real competition is India, China, Latin America, Africa, Russia, New Orleans. In other words, the world itself is undergoing absolutely radical transformation, and our professions simply do not have the skill sets appropriate to that. You, the amazingly superior and annoying generation of super students, are the ones that are appropriately ready to assess these kinds of questions. It's really the first global generation. It's the first generation that uses a kind of global intelligence. It's the first generation that can demonstrate that everybody around you is lucky to have your care and your respect. We were the lucky ones for the time that you were with us. I think the world is going to be super lucky, but you're also going to rearrange things. You're going to rearrange things a lot. In theory, you're going to do work that's so amazing that Avery Library is going to collect it, that you're going to send these ideas out into the world and they're going to come back to the library. Frankly, Avery Library does not have a classification system that can accommodate your work. We will work hard while you work hard in the world so that when your work is acknowledged and recognized, we would be able to bring it back into the school and honor it. But I'm being honest to you, we at this moment do not have the way to classify your work. It's that good. So it's an amazing class. Do damage. You are the class of 2009. Amazing class. Not since the 1960s has there been this combination of ethical and ecological and political commitment from students, absolutely synchronized with the latest ideas and the latest technology and the latest systems of communication. That's the combination that you represent. Amazing. Okay, should we give degrees or not? Let's give degrees. Laurie Hawkinson, Professor Hawkinson, who's director of the Advanced Studios in the amazing sequence of programs, is going to read out the graduates from the Master of Architecture program.
Okay, ready? You guys made it. Okay. Brian Frederick Ackley. Zachary Michael Aders. Christopher Philip Barley. Otis George Birkin. Bridget Marie Borders. Samuel James Brissett. Marlo Maureen Brown. Michael David Cavendar. Michelle I. Chang. Lu Yu Chen. Yusuk Choi. Michael Jia Chow. Egbert Miles Chu. Zachary Deed Colbert. Michael Paul Contento. Erin Thaddeus Davis. Brett Rebecca Dorfman. Riche Lynn Espinoza. Jin Pyo Yun. Priscilla McMillan Lovett Frazier. Stephen Daniel Garcia. Samuel John Grenader. Greta Marie Hansen. Jin Woo Hyo. Edgar Forrest Jesse. Emily Brooke Johnson. Hina Kapoor. William Potter Kemper. Sharif Kabir Kalje. Daniel Jackson Kidd. Ji-Hai Kim. Jongso Kim. Kyung Jae Kim. Raina Lee Kim. Sharon Mihyun Kim. Hyunggo Kyuk. Karen L. Kubi. Sung Young Lee. Yongju Lee. Philip Tinge Lin. Brian George Manning Spint. Andrew Seth McDowell. Joseph Vincent McGrath. Leah Mika Meisterlin. Clinton Atlee Miller. Jeffrey Mark Millett. Jiu No. Yoon Jin Park. Daniel Jordan Payne. Julie Malin Ping. Sharon Dina Pionkowski. Olivia Ramos. Benjamin Douglas Wright. Deborah Ashley Richards. Dahlia Jamila Roberts. William West Rodiger Robinette. Ayala S. Rosen. Christian Marcus Rudd. Daniel Christophe Rousseau. Laurence Dominique Sarazan. Elizabeth Lane Scherer. Lindsay Brenna Sherman. Catherine Mariko Shima. Matthew Austin Stout. Matus Nikodem Tarzinski. Troy Conrad Thieren. John William Tukurla. Matthew John Voss. And Miriam Nira Ward. Congratulations. Great.
So those are the architects of the future from 2009. So now we're going to give the degrees to the graduates of the Urban Planning Program, and its director is Professor Robert Beauregard, who is just an amazing colleague, a great leader, a visionary, and is really bringing a whole new sense of vision to the planning program. And if you are reading the newspaper, or if you're looking at the internet and you're listening to the news, what you're hearing about is planning. Planning is basically as hot as can possibly be. Planning has had to give up its idea of being kind of thoughtful and reflective and time-based, and has now to be thoughtful and urgently applied. This is a program absolutely in action, and it's Bob's credit to make an amazing program, an amazing set of graduates.
Catherine Barnes DeMoto. Thomas Bassett. Daniel Haynes Berger. James Stephen Cox. Kyle Robert Stewart Daniels. Teresa Marie Dida. Brian David Gardner. Stephanie Lynn Gary. Chelsea Lauren Gleese. Carolina Anna Grebowicz Hall. Naomi Herson Ringskog. Catherine Kim. Inba Kashoni. Michael Aaron Colber. Casey Elizabeth Laflamme. Anna Chuo Lan. Eileen Kayun Leung. Stephanie Fei-Yin Lim. Catherine Jane Lepiicki. Jiwan Liu. Andrea Victoria Mapalero Colomina. Hee-Suk Park. Sunman Park. Abdul Sabor. Sadamitsu Sakaguchi. Matthew Evan Schwartz. Jung In Seao. Chinji Shen. Kriti Kaur Sadi. Patrick Norman Streeter. Yuan Tang. Jessica Suzanne Van Houten. Lin Zhang.
So what do you think? This is the urban planners of the future from the class of 2009. So I want to introduce you to the miraculous, elegant, refined Professor Andrew Dolkart, recently granted tenure at Columbia University and the brilliant, brilliant leader of the preservation program.
And I'm thrilled to graduate the following people: Elenia Helen Becker, Matthew Owen Cootie, Brett Rebecca Dorfman, Exusha Carly Ann Flandro, Julie Laura Foster, Christine Ha, Nagin Maliki, Lindsay Karras McCook, Christina Marie Nugent, Julia Hunter Palmer, Tara Rashid, William Fremont Peter Reynolds, Benjamin Joel Sabatini, Mariana Judith Sarango, Jennifer Lynn Shork, Carolyn Rose Stevenson, Janine Marie Wilcoes. Congratulations.
Historic preservation. Okay, some prizes, you know, what can you say? We start with the William Kinney Fellows Memorial Traveling Prizes. It's super interesting because students make a proposal and the faculty judges the value of the proposal without knowing where it's coming from, who it's coming from. So this is really a proposal about ideas, and if you listen to the names of these projects, you can hear where this generation is thinking and where it thinks the kind of key acupuncture points are for research. So firstly, coming from the architecture subcommittee, for a project called Finding a Balance Between Vernacular Architecture and Developing Building Practices in Bhutan, Katie Shima and Megan Quinn. For a project entitled The Future of the Medina, Negotiating Modernization and Gentrification Through Comparative Studies in North Africa, Emily Johnson and Deborah Richards. For a project entitled Transnational Network Urban Development Along the Trans-Siberian Railway, Greta Hansen. For a project called Amphibious Adaptation, Architecture and the Response to Rising Water, Daniel Kidd. For a project entitled The Architecture of Social Capital, Bridget Borders and Forrest Jesse. For a project entitled Suburban Alternatives, Innovative Low-Rise, High-Density Housing of Northern and Western Europe, Karen Kuby. And a project called This Is Later, The Fate of Urbanisms in the Post-Condition, Aaron David and Leah Meiselin. From the Historic Preservation Program, the subcommittee has awarded 2 Kinneys. The first is for a project entitled Documenting Silk Road Structures in the Sarai Accra Steppe, Will Reynolds. And for a project called Documenting Juke Joints, Alina Becker, Janine Wilkos, and Shuya Flandrel. Okay, from the Urban Planning Subcommittee, one of them is going to a project entitled The City is a Skate Park, Los Angeles, How Planning Practices Addresses Skateboarding in Los Angeles, Preeta Sodhi. Scandinavian Sustainability, a Neighborhood-Level Approach to Carbon Emission Reductions, Brian Gardner. A project entitled Learning from Abroad, Creative Uses of Walls and Rooftops in European Cities, Naomi Hersen-Ringsgaard. And now for the school-wide Kinney Awards, which are just across the board amazing. And projects, again, of such creativity and such brilliance, the first of which is called Lightweight Thin Shell Construction and the Preservation of Public Space. This is a project from Hunter Palmer and Tara Rashid. A project entitled The Production of Perception, a Symmetrical Study of Libya, Troy Conrad-Thurman and Chris Barley. And now a project entitled Walking Architecture, Hiking the Ruta Peregrino, the Pilgrim's Route. This is a project from William Rodiger Robinette. And now a prize for the project entitled Transnationalizing Transmillennial, Bringing Better Bus Rapid Transit from Colombia to the United States, Andrea Mapillero Colomina and Thomas Bassett. Okay, now a project entitled Imagining Sarajevo, Tracing Post-War Architectural Visions to the Realities of the Present, Matthew Stout. And the final school-wide Kinney goes for a project called Food for Thought, Zachary Colbert and Egbert Miles Chu. And now the Historic Preservation Program Awards. These are the thesis awards. Firstly, for the best thesis to explore materials conservation, goes to a project advised by George Wheeler, our remarkable conservation scientist, for a project entitled Evaluation of the Physical and Chemical Properties of Dolomitic Lime Mortar, Jennifer Schork. For the best thesis addressing design in historic preservation, a project advised by John Stubbs called A Future for Shotogalu, Conservation Planning for Historic Royal Gardens, Parks and Pavilions in Iran, and the winner is Nay Gwen Maliki. And now for the best thesis addressing preservation history and theory. Advisor was Theo Proudhon, and the project was entitled A Planned Community in Minneapolis, How can it be preserved? And that question is asked by Caroline Stevenson. And now for the best thesis considering design and preservation theory. It's a project advised by Andrew Dolkart, the director of the program. It's entitled Architecture and Urban Education Reform, the Significance of Harlem Public Schools 1954 to 1970. And this is Brett Dorfman. And the final thesis prize is the Preservation Alumni's James Marston Fitch Thesis Prize. James Marston Fitch, of course, founding the program more or less in 1964, the oldest historic preservation program in the world. So this is a name with great honor and dignity. This thesis prize goes to a project advised by Andrew Dolkart called the Bush Terminal Model Lofts and Early Reinforced Concrete Buildings on Brooklyn's Waterfront, Their Significance as Industrial Heritage, by Christine Hu. And now the most important award, the Historic Preservation Student Peer-to-Peer Award, the toughest one to win. This is awarded to the student whose wild participation in preservation has earned the respect of the whole student body. The wildest, most respected student is Jennifer Schork. Okay, now for the Urban Planning Program Awards. First of all, the Charles Abrams Thesis Award. This is for a master's thesis that best exemplifies a commitment to social justice. The winner did a thesis entitled Preserving Racism, the New York City Landmarks Preservation Commission, James Cox. And now the Planning Challenge Award for a master's thesis that makes a substantive contribution to our understanding of a contemporary planning issue, for a thesis entitled Planning for Retail, the Role of New York City Department of Planning and DCP in 4 Inner City Neighborhoods, Andrea Victoria Marpilero Colomina. And now for the Planning Research Design Award. This is for a thesis that exemplifies a commitment to research methodology and/or planning techniques. For a thesis entitled The Guangxi and Non-Miracle in China, Tacit Relationships and Impacts on Local Industrial Development, Yang Yishen. And now for the American Institute of Certified Planners Outstanding Student Award, simply for outstanding attainment in the study of planning. This award goes to Karolina Grebevich Hall. And now the Urban Planning Award for high academic attainment. It goes to Patrick Streeter. And now the New York chapter of the American Planning Association's Award for Academic Excellence and Leadership in Urban Planning. The leader, academically excellent as she is Stephanie Lynn Gary. And a School Service Award for outstanding service to the school goes to Huan Tang. And finally, the Student Award. This is the Urban Planning Student Peer-to-Peer Award to the student whose dedication, reliability, and sheer willingness to help others has earned the respect of the student body, Sadamitsu Sakaguchi. And now the Buell Center for the Study of American Architecture Awards. Firstly, the Catherine Hoover Warsanger Writing Prize, which is awarded by the Temple Hoyne Buell Center for the Study of American Architecture, directed by Reinhold Martin, for an outstanding essay on American architecture. There are 2 awards. The first goes to Karen Kuby. And the second goes to William Rodiger Robinette. Okay, now from the architecture program, these are the Lucille Smyser Lowenfish Memorial Prizes. This is simply when the amazing studio teachers identify the most amazing student in the most recent of their studios. This is open to MArch students and AAD students and UD students, and of course right now we're going to do architecture. The teachers Leslie Gill and Mike Jacobs doing this amazing studio called Rates of Exchange, Surplus and Deficit in 2 Global Ecoregions. The winner of the Lowenfish is Clinton Miller. From Laurie Hawkinson's studio entitled The Stimulus Studio, New Ideas on Infrastructure America for Obama's Stimulus Package Now, a studio which, by the way, 4 of the people in that studio recently won an award in an amazing competition. The winners of the Lowenfish, 2 people, Daniel Kidd and Zachary Kohlberg. Keith Caseman's amazing studio in Brazil, Conceição Hill, Stealthy Demonstrations. The winner of the Lowenfish is Elizabeth Shearer. Stephen Hole, continuing his sequence of studios on the architectonics of music. It gets better and better, and the winner this time is a double winner, Raichi Espinoza and Dahlia Roberts. For Frederick Levrat's studio called Knowledge City, Abu Dhabi, the winner is Yin Pyo Yan. Reinhold Martin's studio entitled Financial Imaginaries, Mumbai, New York, The winner of the Lionfish is Otis Birkin. Scott Marble's studio, Building Democracy in Bhutan. The winner is Hongol Kuk. I mean, you've got to know it's almost impossible to win these prizes, right? N Architects, Mimi Hong and Eric Banje gave the winner for their Manhattan Dystopia studio to Andrew Seth McDowell. Galia Solomonov's studio on DF, Distrito Federal or Downtown Forgotten. The winner is William Kemper. Alfredo Brillenberg and Hubert Klumper of Slum Lab for their project Holland, Morocco, Code and Countercode, Emily Johnson. And finally, Michael Bell's critic for Managing Energy in Cars and Houses, Sam Granada. Okay, now the student awards. Firstly, to the student whose ridiculous commitment within studio and the school at large has earned the respect of the student body. The most ridiculously committed person is Karen Kuby. The second award goes to the student whose work questions the standards of architecture and promises to change the profession, which is kind of like the mission of the school, Seth McDowell. Okay, now the Building Technologies Honor Award to the student who demonstrates an ability to incorporate building technologies into the issues of architectural design, Joseph McGrath. The Visual Studies Honor Award for Innovative Use of Computing Media in Architectural or Urban Research, Design and Fabrication. The winner of this is Christian Rudd. And now the Ali Jawad Malik Memorial History Theory Honor Award, an award in the memory of somebody dear to the school and a family dear to the school in recognition of high quality of work in the history theory sequence, Joseph McGrath. Now for School Service Awards for Outstanding Service to the School, there are two awards, Michael Chow and Forrest Jesse. Okay, it gets a little heavy at this point. The Alpha Alpha Rokai Medal for Leadership and Service to the School and Promise of Professional Merit, Daniel Payne. Okay, we come down to the three awards that we're going to give, building our way towards the finish. It was said several times during the day-long review of the MArch students' work that this was the finest year's work in the history of the school. You need to know that. That's not said easily. There are usually members of the faculty who want to drag it down. Literally, there was the thought that this was the best quality set of portfolios that have been judged in the history of the school. As they say, past performance is no indication of future performance, but if it was, this would be an amazing set of people you're about to meet. The New York Society of Architects Matthew Delgado Award for Excellence in Total Design goes to Roichi Espinoza. The American Institute of Architects Certificate in Recognition of Scholastic Achievement, Character, and Promise of Professional Ability goes to Andrew Seth McDowell. The American Institute of Architects Medal in Recognition of Scholastic Achievement, Character, and Promise of Professional Ability goes to Troy Thurian. Some honor awards for excellence in design. In recognition of the high quality of work in the design students during the students' program of studies, there are a number of awards. The first is Otis Birkin. Zachary Colbert. Michael Contento. Daniel Kidd. Kyung Ye Kim. Katie Shima. The Charles McKim Prize for Excellence in Design and the Saul Kaplan Traveling Fellowship to recognize the student whose work throughout the studios has been outstanding, funded by a request from Saul Kaplan, who graduated in 1957. This is a prize for travel and study following graduation. The winner of this year's McKim Prize is Clinton Miller. We don't have any more prizes, but I would like you to award a prize to Dr. David Hinkle, who is the secret heart and soul of the school. Anybody who knows anything knows that David is at once the most practical and the most inspirational and intellectual leader of our school, and he's never ever let a single person down in year after year after year. The amazing work that you have done, the amazing work that's on all of the walls that you can see, in some way is to the credit of David Hinkle and his amazing team. So there's one more prize, which is the Percival Goodman Award, which is a research award essentially for a project which is seen to carry out the kind of vision and way of thinking and commitment to social justice of Percival Goodman, once on the faculty here, and the winner of the Percival Goodman Award this year is Troy. So the last word is something like, well, from a practical point of view, when we go out, I think there's like cakes and chocolate and dessert, sort of sweet things. So maybe the ending here is going to be sweet. For me personally, amazingly sweet to be with you. I mean, a very, very, very somehow important year in which all of us learnt a lot, and we primarily learned it from the students. The parents and families who are in the room know perfectly what I'm talking about. You know this kind of red-hot, amazing, thirsty, creative abilities of the people that are sitting in these weird clothes in front of you. For us to get to know those people that you've lived with your whole life, to take care a little bit of them while they were here, was an enormous, enormous privilege. And so I just want to thank the families, and maybe that's the last award, should be for everybody who came today and helped us celebrate this amazing group. So, one more time for the class of 2009.